Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 19 of the Christmas Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing a brand new Cricut project to make every day for 20 days. For today's project, I've created a little family of snowmen for you and a Christmas tree, and I'm going to show you how to put them together in Design Space to make your own little family ornaments for the Christmas tree. This one here has a husband and wife on there, and I've added the names using the Cricut pens, but you can also add little children and baby snowman too to make it match your family perfectly. As well as showing you how to turn these into completely customized Christmas tree decorations, in part 2 of this video, I'll also show you how you can make greetings cards too. So this one you can see we've got lots of snowmen along there. I've also added the names, and then in Design Space we'll create this lovely background with some extra pen details. It's a really cute way to send a Christmas card with all these details. And you could even make a matching ornament to go inside with the details on of the person who you're giving this to. So rather than being your family, you might make them a little ornament that has their family on it so that they can hang it on their tree. There are loads of different personalization options in today's project, so let's jump into Design Space and get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Christmas Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas24. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas24 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Christmas Craft Countdown, plus lots of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Here's what the SVG file for today's project looks like when it's loaded into Cricut Design Space. If you're not sure how to get to this stage, check out the schedule page for the Christmas Craft Countdown and look for the Foundation Learning box near the top of the page. Within there is a link to a separate tutorial with a video on how to upload SVGs into Cricut Design Space. All of the little pictures come as one single SVG, so you only need to upload one file to get all of the little characters and the tree. I'm splitting this tutorial into 2 parts. For the first part, we're going to make the Christmas tree decoration with the little husband and wife snowman on there, and then I'll show you how to put all that one together, and then I'll come back to Design Space to show you how to make it a little bit more complicated by adding all of the children in and also turning it into a finished greetings card. So for now, I'm going to click on this and ungroup the layers by pressing the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel. And for this particular one, for the ornament, as I am only going to be using the little Mr. and Mrs. Snowman, I'm just going to select the other ones and delete them. But as I said, don't worry, they'll be coming back later in this tutorial. The beauty of this design is you can customize it as much as you need to add as many little snowmen to your design as you want. So for this one, I'm going to keep things fairly simple and position the snowman either side of the tree. I think it would look nice if the male snowman was looking at the female one, so I'm going to flip him round by going flip, flip horizontal. Now it looks like they're just sort of gazing into each other's eyes. They come at quite a nice size in comparison with the Christmas tree, but if you want to, you can resize them to make them look a little bit bigger, or of course you can make them smaller. But I'll just undo that and do them in the size that they come. If you want to change the colours, you can do that by clicking one of the snowmen and then clicking the little arrow next to them in the Layers panel. Then you can click on all of the coloured layers and change the colour up here. For example, I could make a pink snowman instead. However, I am going to do mine as it comes, so I'll just undo that and put it back to red. These are fairly simple illustrations. If I open one up again, you can see we've got the coloured bit at the very bottom, and this makes up the circles in the tummies and also the hat. And then we've got a bobble for the end of the hat, a very dark brown piece which makes up the arms and also the details in the face. There's an orange piece which will be glued behind to make the nose, a white piece which makes up obviously the snow, and then 2 pieces, one for the hat and one for the scarf. So it's all nice simple shapes that can be cut very small, so when we're putting this into the size for a Christmas tree decoration, it will all still cut really nicely. This next stage is optional, but I think it's quite nice to add names to the bellies of the snowman, especially if you're making this to actually match your family or a family of someone that you're going to be giving this to. It makes it extra personal if you've got the names on, rather than just, at the moment, this could just be 2 general snowman and a tree, but by putting the names on it, you're tying it into that specific family and making it extra special with that personalization. To do this, go into text over on the left and then type out your name. Because this is going to be very small, I'm not going to have the Cricut cut out the name. Instead, I'm going to use the pens so that it will draw the name instead. Cricut Sans is the default font in Design Space, and this is a good one to choose for this project because the letters are really clear and easy to see even when they're small. To change it to a writing font, under the Style drop down here, change it to Writing. It will then change to look like single lines, and you'll also notice that the operation has changed to pen. If you do it a different way, so I'm just going to undo that. This is my original text. You can also, under operation, change it to pen. But if you do that, you'll find that it gives you the outline of the letters, like little bubbles, rather than just the single lines. And that won't work as well for this project because as it will be so small, all these lines will blend in together and it will end up looking a bit blurry and hard to read. But if your word is looking like this with the outlines of the letters, you can fix it by going into the Style drop down and changing it to Writing, and that will switch it to the single lines. Right, this will need to be a bit smaller. Zoom in. And then I'm going to curve it a little bit so it fits nicely along the side of the circle on the snowman belly. Maybe even a little bit smaller. To do this, use the Curve tool here. This feature is available for anyone, even if you don't have the Cricut Access subscription. The bit at the bottom, which is saying Cricut Access Twist Text Any Way You Like, is promoting their Warp tool. That's this button up here above the curve. So you can only use the Warp tool if you pay for Cricut Access, but the Curve tool, which is the one I'm going to be using, anybody can use. You can drag the little slider and it changes the direction of the text. I'm going to do mine that way, I think, and then rotate it and place it along his tummy. So it's just a gentle curve, nothing too extreme, otherwise it gets hard to read. But you can see, I'm not quite sure why that has just kind of erased the text. If it does that, just hit the undo button and try resizing it again. But yeah, that gentle curve just makes it fit to the circle a little bit easier. And then I'll do the same for the other one. And this time it'll be curved the other way around, so it'll go down that side. Still a bit big. Trying to get them roughly the same size. You can match the size exactly if you want to by clicking on the text and noticing the font size in here. So I could set that to 25. And then I could also set the sandy one to 25, and then it's the same size. But sometimes that doesn't work out though. If you've got one really long name and one short one, it can look a little bit weird with the letters exactly the same size, so you might want to play about with them if that's the case. But that's looking good. I'm just having a little play around to get these nice and evenly spaced with the outline of the snowman. At the moment, if I was to click make and start the cut process, it's going to do my names on a random piece of card. Cricut doesn't know yet that I want it to do it on the bellies of the snowman. So to tell it to do this, I'm going to click on one of the snowmen, press the ungroup button at the top of the layers panel, and then look down and find the body of the snowman, which is the white layer. Press the shift key on my keyboard and choose the name. So for this one, it's the Michael name. And then down the bottom of the layers panel, press attach. That attach button joins the text onto the tummy. So now Cricut knows to do the drawing on the tummy of the snowman. When you attach something, it moves it to the top of the layers panel. You can see it's now at the top up here. So I want to move it back down to where it was, and it was between the hat and the orange bit for his nose. Now I want to group all this snowman again. So I'm going to hold my shift key and click all the layers of that one snowman and group them. And then I'll do the same for the female snowman. So ungroup her, select the name, press shift, and then either click it over here or in the layers panel, the white one, and attach. Drag that back down. And then select all of her layers and group her again. The reason I wanted to group it again was so that I can play about a little bit more with my positioning. To get a nice even base to the design, press select all and then align bottom, and that will shift everything down so it just lines up nicely. It looks a little bit neater on the eye. I don't like that I've got a little gap here between the hat and the tree. I'm going to move him along a bit and maybe bring her in a little too. Alright, so this is my design finished. I'm happy with how it's looking, but if I was to cut this out now, it's not going to be very easy to stick together because it's going to do the tree and the snowman separately. To make it easier to stick everything together, I want to take the outlines of these snowmen and merge them onto my tree layers. That way I can build my tree first and it will have the outlines of the snowman as part of that green card. So then I've got a really nice clear base to stick all the snowman pieces on top of and know that everything's going to go together and it's not going to fall apart and it will just be much easier. This is a little bit more involved, so you may need to watch and rewind and rewatch this bit if it's not clear what I'm doing, but I'm going to try and go pretty slowly. So first I want to make a copy of the very bottom layer of each snowman. So I'll open up the window, click it, and for this one it is the red. Press the Alt key and hover over the red and then click. And that will duplicate it in exactly the same place. If you notice you do it, you've clicked the right layer, you hover and click, but, oh actually it still did it that time, but sometimes it might not do the actual layer you want. I'm going to try. It's working every time now. Okay, that's good. But if you did find that maybe even though you had the red selected, it was duplicating the white, that can just mean that your mouse is over the white. Just try and keep it over the bit that you want to duplicate. But of course, when I'm recording the video and I want it to go wrong so that I can show you, it works every time. Okay, I'm going to do the same for the blue one. So click on the blue in the layers panel. Press Alt on my keyboard. It's Option if you're on a Mac, but for Windows it's Alt. Hover and move the mouse until you get the plus sign and then click with your mouse. So I've now got copies of both of these layers. I'll now hover over both of my snowman group and hide them by clicking the eye icon. You can see by looking at the Christmas tree layers that there are three main pieces. There's the brown at the bottom, the light green, and then the dark green. So I'm going to need 3 copies of each of these snowman pieces so that I can weld them with each of the different colours of the tree. First, let's join the 2 snowmen together to make this easier. I'll click one of them and then press Shift and choose the other one. And remember, this has only selected those bits we duplicated. It's not the whole snowman, just this one piece each. Go into Combine and then Weld, and that will join them together into one layer. I'll then change the colour of this to the dark brown of the tree. Then we need 2 more copies, so click it, press Alt, wiggle your mouse a bit to get the plus sign, and then click once and then twice. I've now got 3. I'll change the colour of these to match the tree so the next bit is easier. So now I've got 1 brown, 1 light green and 1 dark green. We'll start with the dark green. So I've clicked my dark green snowman. No, actually I want to ungroup my tree first. So click the tree and ungroup the layers. Then I can choose my dark tree, press Shift and choose the dark snowman, the dark green, and then Combine and Weld. That would join them together into one layer. You can see I can now move it as one piece. I'm just going to undo that to put it back in the right place. I don't like these two teeny tiny gaps on the snowman's hand, so I'm going to go into contour and click to fill in those little gaps. It'll just be a little easier for the Cricut to cut. Then click it and go arrange, center back. That's now at the very bottom of the layers panel, which means we can see the next ones to do. Click the light green snowman, press shift and choose the light green tree, and combine and weld. That's joined them together. Then I can go arrange, center back. Then the same for the brown. Click the tree, press shift, click the snowman, combine and weld. And then arrange, center back. If your layers weren't showing up in the correct order now, you can click and drag to move them about, but mine are in the right order. Then we can turn the snowman back on, and that would now be ready to cut if you were just doing this to go on a greetings card or in a frame or something like that. However, if you want to turn this into a Christmas tree decoration, then we're not quite finished because at the moment there's no way to hang this up. What you would need to do is add a little circle cutout in the top of the star so that you can thread some ribbon through there to hang it up on the tree, and then we'll glue this one on top to cover up the hole so it's all nice and pretty. I'll hide the star for now, go into shapes and choose a circle, and then make this so that it fits nicely in the middle of that star. It doesn't need to be exactly in the middle. Let's just get rid of that. But try and get it fairly central if you can. Once again, there are 3 layers of the tree, so we need to make 3 of these circles. So I'll press my Alt key, wiggle the mouse, and click twice. Choose one of the circles, press shift and choose the dark green of the tree, and then press combine, subtract. It's hard to see because of the other circles, but if I move it across, you can see that's now cut out that circle. So this will be a hole in the top of the bit of card. And then arrange, center back to move it right down the bottom. Do the same for the next one. So my light green tree, press shift and choose one of those circles, press combine, subtract, and then arrange, center back. One more left, the circle and the brown. Press combine, subtract to take the circle out, and then arrange, center back. So now all 3 layers of my tree have got the same circle cut out the top, and then my star will go on there to hide it. The final thing to do is to resize the design. Press select all, and then group your layers together by pressing the group button at the top of the layers panel. That means you can now resize everything as once, and it will all change in proportion. I don't want my decoration to look too big on the tree, so let's go for 4 inches wide. And then that works out at 3.667 inches tall, which sounds about right. You might want to get a ruler and actually check the size, because I find that sometimes trying to think of a size in Design Space that is suitable is quite difficult. But if I look at it on an actual ruler, then I can see, oh, 4 inches, okay, that's that big. Yeah, that'll be fine. Or sometimes I might think, oh, 5 inches doesn't sound that big. And then I look at it on a ruler and I'm like, oh, actually, that would be way too big for what I'm doing. So that's just a little trick for if you're not quite sure what to make it. Okay, so mine's 4 inches and then 3.667 tall. I've got my 2 little snowmen and their names will be written on. Let's give it a save. Pressing save. We'll go test snowman couple and save that. There we go. And then this would be ready to cut out. Press make over on the top right and it will separate out all the colours for you. You can change the paper size in here. And if you want to, you can click and drag to move things about to use up less space on your cardstock. This is a great project for using up your scraps because, as you can see, some of them only need a teeny tiny amount of that card, especially if you're making the ornaments, so it's going to be small. So if you've got scraps left over from another project, this is the one to use them on. So go ahead, get all your mats looking exactly as you want them to, press continue to connect to your Cricut, and then cut everything out from cardstock. Although one thing I just want you to check is if you are drawing the names on, make sure they are appearing on the snowman tummies on this screen. If you're seeing your names on a separate sheet, that means you haven't attached them to the snowman bodies correctly. So if that's the case, just click cancel down here, go back to your project and make sure you've attached each name to its relevant snowman tummy. Here are all the pieces of my ornament cut out, and I've roughly laid them on top of each other to check I haven't lost any pieces along the way. Although when I just moved it onto my filming desk, I completely dislodged everything, so it's not looking very neat, but never mind. Because I cut this so small, this is as far as my camera will let me zoom in, so I'm sorry if it does look a little bit teeny tiny on the screen and my hands look massive, but it just kind of shows how small I've made it so it'll look nice on the tree. And even though it is this small, it's still cut beautifully, all the details on the face, and also the Cricut has drawn out the names really nicely too. Okay, so I'm going to move all of my little snowman bits out the way and we'll start with the tree. Here we go. So we've got these 3 pieces and we'll be gluing all of these together. I'm using Bearly Art Glue, but I also like Collall. And the reason I like these glues is because they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. We'll start by gluing the lighter green piece onto the brown. And you can see here, we've got those outlines that we welded together in Design Space, and that's going to make it so easy to know where to stick the snowmen, snow people, snow something anyway, when we get to them. Make sure you add a good amount of glue around the hole in the star to hold all that in place. And then goes right on top. Line up those edges as neatly as you can. And then the darker green will get glued on top. This one's a little trickier because of the thin lines. But again, it depends a little bit on how small you've made it. This is very small. And it's still okay to get the glue in those lines, just about. And I'll line that up and get it stuck down. Oops. If your glue smushes out a bit like mine just did, you can see it here. You can use a fingernail to clean it up or a weeding tool. Just grab a weeding tool and gently move that excess glue away. Just don't push too hard. You don't want to scratch the card. Just moving the glue. While that's drying, let's stick the snowmen together. For this one, I'm going to glue all of the pieces together. Little bits for the nose are very small. First, we've got the dark brown, which will go onto the main biggest piece, which will be your sort of coloured piece. There. And then next up is the white. But before we do that, turn it upside down. Add the tiniest amount of glue around the edge of the nose, being careful not to go into any of the other spaces. And then get your teeny tiny little carrot piece and stick that into the glue. Let's try and show you a little better. So that's covering the hole for his carrot nose. I thought it'd be easier to do it this way round than having the tiny carrot shapes to glue on top, because then if you're a bit messy with your glue, it's all hidden on the back and it fills it in nicely. And then this is just glued on top of the snowman we've already got. Oh, it's very difficult to pick up the pieces when they're this small. There he is. And then we've got 2 bits left, which is the rim of his hat and his scarf. I'm cheating and adding the glue straight onto the snowman. I find that a little easier, but if you prefer, you can add the glue on the back of these pieces and then stick them on that way. The smaller, thinner bit is for his hat, and the thicker bit is for his scarf. And there's my little Michael snowman, all finished. I've then got the same to do for the female snowman. Snowwoman. So let's whiz through it this time because it's exactly the same. I've mostly stuck her together now. There's just one bit that's different from the male snowman, and that is the little bobble in her hat, which I'll glue on too. I don't think that's actually the bobble. I think that's just a random circle of card I happen to have on my craft desk, because actually now I've stuck it on, it's kind of glossy and everything else isn't, but it fits, so I'm gonna go with it. Alright, next up I'm gonna attach the snowman to the tree, and you can either glue it or use some foam squares for a bit of dimension, which is what I'm gonna do. The foam squares I'm using are from Dot & Dab, but any will do. If yours are really big, you might need to cut them smaller with a pair of scissors. You can either add the foam on the back of the snowman or put it directly onto the tree bit. Doesn't really matter. I'm adding quite a lot because as this will be hanging, just want to make absolutely sure nothing's going to come loose. Adding a bit more weight is nice too, as it just hangs a little bit better from the tree. Peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. And then little snowmen stuck on top. That's one. And two. That's so cute. I've got a piece of ribbon to thread through the top. This is too long, so I need to just try and find my scissors. Alright, get this a little smaller. Fold the ribbon in half. And then tuck it through the hole. Pull it through so you've got a loop. And then put the ends through that loop and pull it tight. And that will secure the ribbon onto the top of the ornament. And then you can tie it into a nice bow when you put it on the Christmas tree. But I'll leave mine for now, because it's nice if you leave it a bit long, because then you can trim it based on the particular branch you're going to put it on, how thick your branches are, things like that. And then I've got my star to add back on. Do this with some foam squares so it helps go over the shape of the ribbon. Put that on top. That hides the hole beautifully. And there's our Christmas tree decoration, all lovely and customised. If you want to make your ornament to have more family members on it, or if you want to do something different and make a greetings card instead, that is all coming up next in this video. Here are all of my snowmen once again, and for this part I've already added the names to each of the tummies, and I've attached them to the relevant white parts on each design, and I've changed up some of the colours. I've done this already on this one because this part is exactly the same step as it was for when we made the Christmas decoration, so you can go ahead and alter all of your snowman by using those same instructions that we did at the beginning of the video. What I have done, which is a little bit different, is that each snowman I've grouped in my layers panel and given it a name that matches the name on the tummy, just so that it will be a little bit easier for me to understand which one is which. I haven't named the dad one yet so that I can show you how to do this. So I grouped all the layers together, and then you can double click into the group name and type whatever you want, press enter on your keyboard, and then that will rename the group for you. Right, I've got my tree. Let's move this to the bottom by pressing arrange, center back. And now I can play about with getting all of these positioned where I want them to go. If any of the snowmen are appearing underneath and you want them to be on top, press arrange, bring to front, and it will move them around for you. I'm going to have a little play. Got my little baby snowman as well. Maybe, oops, didn't mean to rotate him, I meant to make him bigger. A little bit bigger for Dad's snowman. You can play about with the children's snowman based on the ages of the children that you're making this for. For example, if the children are older, you can make the snowman a little bit bigger. If they're younger, you can make them a bit smaller. If you want to use the same snowman more than once, you can absolutely do that. To change them up a little bit, you could change the colours, or you could flip one of them using flip and then flip horizontal to make a mirror image, just so it looks a little bit different. I'm just getting all these kind of roughly into a nice position. And then I think I'll have the little baby snowman leaning up so it looks like his mum is giving him a little cuddle. I'll drag a box around everything and press align bottom so that it just looks that little bit neater down there. I think I'm happy with how that's looking actually. So all I need to do next is to repeat the steps that we did on the ornament, where we're taking copies of the very bottom piece of each snowman and then welding it to the tree so that we're building our framework to know exactly where to stick everything when it's all cut out. It's a little bit trickier now just because we've got more snowman. So the first thing to do will be to make a copy of each of those base layers. Let's go into Samuel, click on his yellow, press Alt and click, and then I'll hide him. Go into the Dad one, Alt and click, and then hide all of the layers. Just keeps it a little bit easier if we're hiding as we go. Then the baby, that one. Libby. I totally just made these names up, by the way. It's not actually reflective of anyone I know. I was just coming up with random names. And then the same for Mummy Snowman. And there we go. All right, so I've now got my 5 copies up here. I can select all of these 5 outlines and press Combine, Weld to turn them into one layer. There's a teeny tiny gap here between these 2 snowmen, which I'm going to remove. So let's do contour and just take that out. It's too small for the Cricut to be able to cut, and you won't notice that it's been filled in when everything's stuck together. So just like before, we're going to need 3 copies of this, 1 for each of the main pieces of the tree. So press Alt, wiggle your mouse, click over that layer twice. So now I've got 3. And just like before, I'll change the colours to match the tree. So a dark green one, a light green one, and the brown. And then click on the tree, ungroup it. I'll hide the star for now to make it a bit easier to see. And then this is the same as what we did at the beginning of the video for the ornament. For the ornament. That was really hard to say. So click the dark green snowman, press Shift and choose the dark green outline of the tree. Combine and weld to join them together. And then arrange center back. And then the same for this one. Select both of them, combine and weld, click and arrange center back. One more, click the tree, press Shift, choose the snowman, combine and weld, and then arrange center back. Now all of my snowmen are all joined nicely. However, one thing I have noticed is where this daddy snowman meets the tree, it's the tiniest little cut line. I zoom in even more so you can see. It's got this little gap going up, and I have a feeling that might cause my card to tear. I'm going to hide that little cut line. I'm not sure I can do it on contour. No, it doesn't appear there because it hasn't actually broken the shape. I'm going to fix it though by going to Shapes, choose a circle I think will do, and just place that over that tiny little cut bit where it's going in so thin you won't even be able to see. And then weld that to my dark green. And you see now that I've welded that, it's taken a circle and added that on, so it now doesn't have that really little cut. And I can move that back down to there. All right, we can turn all these pieces back on now. And that's all we need to do. We don't need to worry about joining up where the snowman meet each other, because I'll show you how you can stick it together without doing that. So I'm going to select everything and group it. Call that family. And then if you were making this into a decoration, you would cut the circles out for the stars like we did before and then resize it. Or if you're putting it into a frame, you can just resize it and cut it out. But I'm going to add these onto a greetings card and actually make the card in Design Space too. So for now, I'm going to click my little family, hover over it in the Layers panel and click the eye icon to hide it. To make the greetings card, go into Shapes and choose a square. And then this will be a 5x7 inch card, which I'm going to do landscape. So click the padlock icon above the width and the height box to open it up. And then my width will be 7 inches and my height will be 10 so that it can be folded in half to make a 5x7 inch card. And I'll make this the light green that I've used on the tree. If you have a scoring stylus or wheel for your machine, it's a nice idea to add a score line down the middle of here to make it easier to fold. Go into Shapes and choose a score line. And then set it to 7 inches. And then in the rotate box, type out 90 and press enter, and that rotates it round. Select both of those layers and press align center to put the score line in the middle. And then, just like we did with the text on the snowman tummies, we need to attach the score line to the card underneath. I've still got both those layers selected, and I'll press attach to join them together. Let's start building up some details on the front of the card. I'll go into Shapes again and choose another rectangle. This time I'll resize it so it's 1/4 inch smaller than my card front. So my width will be 6.75 and the height will be 4.75. And that will sit nicely on there. And I'll cut that from my darker green of the Christmas tree to add a little border. And now I want some snowy drifts behind the snowman and a nice blue sky. So let's duplicate this one and do the sky first by making it 1/4 inch smaller on each side again, which makes it 6.5 by 4.5. And I'll make this a blue colour, and that will sit on there. There are lots of different ways that you could make a snowdrift scene along the bottom. I'm going to go into Shapes and choose this curved image. Now this one is only available if you have the Cricut Access subscription. If you don't, then you can use a circle instead or an oval down here, and then those ones will be free for you to use. You just won't get the kind of hill effect that you get with this one, but it will still look absolutely lovely. Let's drag this over so it's bigger than my rectangle. And probably around there. This will be easier to see if I add my snowmen in. So turn them back on by clicking the eye icon. Go Arrange, Bring to Front. And then size these so it fits on my card. It needs to go inside that blue and be able to fit. So I think this is a little too high. Move it down to about there. And then hide the family again. Click on the blue layer and duplicate it in place by pressing Alt, wiggle your mouse a bit and click. And to make it easier, we'll turn this one white. I've done the other one, it doesn't matter, as long as one of them is white. And then select that and your shape and press Slice. Slice will cut it out. So now we have this little piece, which is the excess that was going over the edge. I don't need that, so I can delete it. I've then got a grey version of this, which I don't need. I can delete it. I've now got 2 layers left, one which has the shape in the middle and then the top and the bottom parts. For the one with the top and the bottom parts, press Contour and take out the top one by clicking. And then we can join the 2 bottom ones together by selecting both of them and pressing Combine and Weld. So you've now ended up with one solid shape, which will be glued on top of your blue sky to make up the snow scene in the background. and then the family will be stuck on the front. There's one more thing which is quite nice to do, which is to add some extra details into the sky. And this is completely optional. You can leave it out if you don't want to. Go into Images and type out something such as Merry Christmas. In the filter box, click this little icon here and change it to Draw. And now it's showing us images that can be drawn with the pen instead of being cut out. I'll choose one of those. Then resize it smaller. I'm going to have that going in my blue. And I'll cut this from quite a light blue so that the text will be nice and visible on top. In fact, I might even make this a little bit lighter, like that. And then in this corner, let's add to the family vibe. Go into text and type out from the, and then the surname, family, and change it to writing. And that can go in the top right. We'll need to join these two text pieces on to the sky. So I'll select one of them, press Shift on my keyboard and choose the other one. Actually going to move that down a little bit. There we go. And also the blue rectangle and press Attach. So now all of these are joined together. Let's just undo that to put it back in place. And I can move that underneath the snow again to put it all in position. And that is the front of my greetings card all done in Design Space. Let's give it a save. We don't want to lose any of that work. Let's call it Snowman Family Card and click Save. So what I'm going to do now is get all of this cut out from my cardstock, and then I'll show you how to stick it together to get some lovely amounts of depth between all the snowmen using some foam squares, and how to just make sure it's all lined up absolutely beautifully for your finished card. Here are all the bits of my card cut out, and to make this go a little quicker, I've already glued all my snowmen together and also the parts of the tree. And you can see this has got the outline of those snowmen on from where I welded it all together. I've got all my parts of my card here, and we'll start by folding it down that score line. You can get a crisper fold by going down it with a brayer tool, a rolling pin from the kitchen, or one of your Cricut scraper tools. And then let's build up our base next. You can see how nicely those turned out with that pen. I'll glue this onto my darker green rectangle. And then the snowdrift I'll also glue along the bottom. This lines up with the bottom of the blue, not the green, so just make sure you put it in the right place. There. Then all of this can be glued to the front of the card. That looks really nice with those two shades of green, and then all the details creating the start of that scene. For the next part, you can choose on how much dimension you want to add to your card. If you're posting it or sending it in the mail, you might want to glue everything to make it as flat as possible. But if you're giving it in person, you may wish to add more foam squares so you can make it a bit bulkier, or do a combination of both. I'm going to glue this tree piece on, but if you did want more dimension, then you can use your foam squares instead. Try and get that roughly in the middle and straight along the bottom. There. And I'll use a tiny bit of foam squares for the star. I do want a little bit of dimension in my card. It's easier this time, everything's a bit bigger than it was on the ornament. If I just show you to compare. That's the original size. So this one is bigger. Put my star on. And now for the snowman, line up the ones that you want to appear on the bottom. So for mine, that's the mum and the dad snowman. I'll glue these ones on, and then the ones that will go on top, no, that's that side, will be done with some foam squares to make them pop out a bit and make them look like they're stood in front. There's Mummy Snowman. Now let's do Daddy Snowman. There. Okay. So next I'll add some foam squares to the remaining snow people. I'm trying to keep the foam off of the ones that are already stuck on because they're already a fair bit taller because we've added so many sheets of extra cardstock on those bits. So I'm more sort of focusing it just on the green. It'll still stick it fine even though there's no foam under those other bits. And then same over here. I'm running out of foam squares. Let's see if I've got another open pack. Oh, look, just the tiniest amount, but that'll be enough. Oh, didn't line that up very well. Let's try again. There we go. And then baby snowman. This one I am going to need to add some foam over the other bits. Otherwise I don't have enough space, really. I don't think it will notice that it's a bit wonky. It doesn't. Perfect. Alright, so there's my finished greetings card, my snowman family. Got a little bit of dirt there. There we go. I just think this is a really nice way to send a completely personalised gift. And if you didn't want to do it this way round and make it look like your family, you could make it look like the family of who you're giving the card to, and then it could say Merry Christmas to the Jones family, or to the Smith family, or whoever you're giving it to, and then it would have their own little family on the front. And that could be a really nice way of just changing it up a little bit too, and making it extra special for the people that you're giving this card to. So whether you're making either the card or the Christmas tree decoration, or both, or something else entirely, I hope you've enjoyed crafting along with me in this video. If you have, please give the YouTube video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for loads more card making and Cricut ideas. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 20, the final day of the Christmas Craft Countdown. And trust me, you don't want to miss tomorrow's project. It is very big, very impressive, and fair warning, you're going to need a lot of cardstock. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!